Good evening. How is everyone tonight? All right. I am Greg Gorga, Executive Director of your Santa Barbara Maritime Museum. So nice to have you all here tonight for our special presentation, The Surfer and the Sage, with Shaun Tomson and Noah benShea. You are in for a treat tonight. And Shaun has been a longtime friend of the museum, and they have a wonderful new book out. So we're very excited about that. I want to thank our lecture series sponsor, Marie Morris-Rowe. I know, Maria, you're not out there here tonight, but we're thinking about you. Let's hear it for Maria. This is being recorded. It will be up on TV Santa Barbara. It usually takes us a few weeks to put it on our website. So how many of you have been to see our new whale exhibits upstairs? All right. So the Whales Are Superheroes is a permanent exhibit here. It's part of an environmental alliance of 14 other institutions throughout Santa Barbara County. We talk about whale poop, the poop loop, and how it helps with climate change, converts through photosynthesis, convert CO2 into oxygen, very kid-friendly, obviously. We have the artwork by Kelly Klaus and John Barron. Those are temporary exhibits on display through end of July. We have 500 pieces of children's art on our screen here normally during the day. 100 plus of those have been blown up into the Whale's Tale experience in our Munger Theater. If you haven't been up there to see that, please do come back and see that. And then we also have 200 pieces of children's art from Santa Barbara County school children. So those temporary exhibits are all up through the end of July, so please let your friends know. Please come back and visit that. We had a wonderful paddle out. I know some of you, our paddlers, were here. How many people were out the paddle out on last Saturday? All right. Wonderful. Thank you. That was a paddle out for Santa Barbara Maritime Museum. Shaun Tomson was out there paddling, leading the paddlers. It was actually that's our second year doing that. That all came out of Shaun's idea. So thank you, Shaun, for that. We had a great time out there. Hopefully you're following us on Instagram, Facebook. Get our monthly Currents newsletter and our weekly or bi-weekly updates. Very easy to sign up for those. If you're not, it's on our homepage, SBMM.org. Just need your name and email. I want to thank all of you who are members of the Maritime Museum, especially our Navigator Circle members and our Flagship Society members. Those of you who have us in your planned giving, we greatly appreciate that. So thank you very much. I can't tell you how much of a friend to this museum and to me personally Shaun Tomson is, and we are so thrilled to have him and Noah here tonight. So let me just tell you a little bit about both of them. South Africa native Shaun Tomson is a former world surfing champion and has been described by Surfer magazine as one of the greatest and most influential surfers of all time. He is an inductee in the U.S. Jewish and South African Sports Hall of Fames, and he is also a world-renowned leadership mentor, entrepreneur, environmentalist, actor, and best-selling author. Shaun is a past board member and ambassador for Surfrider Foundation, the world's largest environmental group dedicated to protecting the world's oceans, waves, and beaches, and he received the SIMA, S-I-M-A Environmentalist of the Year Award in 2002. He is also a past board member of the Santa Barbara Boys and Girls Club and is an ambassador for Boys to Men, a youth mentoring organization. Shaun, who currently lives with his wife and son here in Santa Barbara, and they are here in the audience, still finds time to chase the perfect wave, sometimes during a paddle out, and is the author of the Surfer's Code and the Code, The Power of I Will. And in 2020, when we did cancel our fundraiser, we did have Shaun speak, and he talked about the power of I Will. And I got to tell you, you write out 12 I will statements. I did that. I still look at those every week. It's a powerful thing to do for yourself, and so I highly suggest that. And I also got to mention, because it's not here in his bio, that we also were the site of the after party when Shaun debuted his amazing film, Bustin' Down the Door, at the Santa Barbara Film Festival. We had the after party here, and we had Dan Merkel's photographs of Shaun and his buddies from the 70s up on the walls, and that was just an amazing evening. So that's Shaun. Noah, yeah, let's go. And then Noah benShea is one of North America's most respected and beloved public philosophers. He is the international best-selling author of 20 books translated into 18 languages and a source of strength to millions around the world. His inspirational thoughts have dramatically impacted the workplace and appear in hospitals, banks, and you've all read him already. You probably don't even realize it because his writing has appeared on over 30 million Starbucks coffee cups. His weekly columns on life were published for 5 years by the New York Times Regional Syndicate and nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. He has spoken at the Library of Congress, is included in the Congressional Record, been published by Oxford University Press and the World Bible Society in Jerusalem. A highly sought-after public speaker, he is the National Laureate for the ALS Association. So we are really excited to have both Shaun and Noah here. You are in for a treat, so please join me in welcoming Shaun and Noah.
Well, Greg, thank you so much for that wonderful intro. So when Noah and I first met, I taught him what stoked means, and I taught him this is called the double shaka. So I actually taught Noah benShea something. So this is a real free-form presentation. I put it together over the last couple of days, and I'm not exactly sure what's coming next, and Noah definitely doesn't know what's coming next. So there's going to be a lot of surprises for both of us here tonight, but we thought we'd start out.
What a surprise in life that none of us know what's coming next.
So we thought we'd start out with maybe Noah, you can just talk about how we met and connected.
Anybody who has ever fallen in love knows what it is to not be able to understand what it is. To meet somebody and know there's a deep, abiding connection that surpasses any notion of reason. It's like when Shaun and I met, it was like meeting, for me, it was like meeting an old friend for the first time. And I think what most connected us was the understanding that we were two guys who were a little bit further down the trail and knew that of all the things we wanted to make in life, we wanted to make a difference. And when we bonded on that, as somebody said when they saw our pictures, this is a great romance. So I feel deeply honored to be in the company of Shaun and to have the blessing of doing this work together. And we welcome you here tonight because we hope that you will pass the word on some of the things we might say and make a difference in the lives of others. Thank you.
So blessing is a great word. In fact, it's the very last word in the book. Noah writes a piece in the book, and that's the last word. So it's a great word. I lost my mom last year. She was 91 years old, and she ended every conversation with two words. From when I was born, I can remember every telephone conversation, or every time I spoke to her and I was going somewhere, she ended it the same way. God bless. Good words there. No, so Noah and I met. A mutual friend introduced us, and we had a lunch at a local restaurant in Montecito. And after 5 minutes, Noah said to me, "Hey, Shaun, let's write a book together." 5 minutes. And I said, "Cool. We'll call it The Surfer and the Sage." And he said it's going to be a guide to survive and ride life's waves. And that is how the book developed. It developed instantaneously, magically, and I think that magical first moment has imbued the book with a special spirit, don't you think, Noah?
I can't imagine that either of us would want to do anything at this point in our lives if there wasn't that magic in what we were doing. I think for Shaun and myself, there's a great understanding that you don't have any time to waste. Some people walk around in life with a quarter in their pocket, thinking at the end of their life they can throw a quarter in a parking meter and get an extra 20 minutes. We understand that time is precious, and if our time is precious, your time is precious. And so rest assured, we're going to try and understand the well-spoken insight that brevity is the heart of wit. We will address that this evening. The good thing about kids is they tell you what they know and then they stop. We'll try to keep this in mind tonight.
So we thought that we'd give you share a quick video on the ethos and the essence of the book. I mean, there's the cover of the book. We both love this concept of light, this concept of sunrise that represents hope, and this beautiful orange color on the book, and it just represents that new dawn. And here's a video about the book. The ocean has this elemental attraction to us all. Having ridden more waves than most on this planet, I've always felt that wave riding skills may help with a philosophy of riding life's waves. I've wondered whether there was a way to write a simple book, distilling what I've learned that can help others to find their inner power, to no longer feel powerless, and learn to ride that powerful wave rather than be swept away by it.
Tomorrow never arrives. Never. Now is the only place you can find your footing. And no one ever stood on a surfboard who didn't fall off. So when you fall off, get over it and get on and on again. Because in this brief life, on this brief journey, of all the things you can make in life, why not make a difference? And when the surfer and I met, it was the right time to make a difference together.
So as you can see, we've only just released the book. It only came out last week, and we've done a few little book events at local stores. It's been wonderful to see the support of the community. But when we conceptualized the book, we conceptualized it during COVID, and we realized that people were really suffering. I was doing a lot of speaking engagements virtually through COVID. I spoke to over 100,000 people, large corporations, and I would ask people, send me a word that describes how you're feeling. So it would be great tonight to see how everyone's feeling. And here's a way that you can all send a word, and we're going to create what's called a word cloud. So you can, if you follow the instructions up at the top there, you text Shaun Tomson 929, and you text that message to that number, 22333. So if you bust out your cell phones, just grab your cell phones out, and let's see if everyone can do this. It's going to take about 60 seconds, so just pull your cell phones out and text the message, Shaun Tomson 929, right at the top of the page there, to 22333. And it's a way for everyone to see how everyone else is feeling. So I did this with about 100,000 people through COVID, large corporations, PTSD survivors in Israel, drug rehab clinics, schools, universities. And it was quite interesting to see how the world was feeling. And I told Noah about the results. So let's see if we can get some results up here. We'll wait about 60 more seconds because I don't see anything popping up on the screen. So you've got to text a message. Text firstly, Shaun Tomson 929 to that number, 22333.
Or call your children and grandchildren and ask them how to do it.
Grateful, that's a great first word. You see? But let's keep these words coming. So someone's figured it out. Tell everyone else. Love, intrigued, chill, keep the words coming. We'll do this for about 60 more seconds. So you can imagine, if I've done this with 100,000 people, I've seen a lot of words. And I've seen how Americans feeling joyful, love. Love and joyful are the two most frequent words: grateful, joyful, love, tired, trepidation, appreciative. Okay, so during COVID, like I said, spoke to a lot of people. This is a company during COVID, you can see anxious. And the 4 words that were most prevalent were these 4 words: stress, anxiety, depression, and disconnection. So I said to her, this is what the world is faced with. I call it a sad mindset. And the actual thesis and goal of the book is how can we get people to move from this mindset to a better mindset? Because this mindset is afflicting people in a really bad way. There's all these statistics how 1 million Americans die every year from bad, poor decisions. 1 million preventable deaths. It's the biggest social problem in our country, and no one knows about it. And it's especially problematic for young people. 35,000 young people die from preventable decisions. So it's a massive, massive issue. And we're hoping with our little book that discusses the duality of life. And those are the chapters. And I asked her, how many chapters should we have? No?
Hugh Noah. So when Shaun asked me how many chapters we should have, what struck me was that there's an ancient wisdom that assigns a numerical value to every Hebrew letter. And when you take the word life, the numerical total is 18. So I said, let this book be an ally to life, and let us have 18 chapters.
And what we did too, is we didn't just focus on the positive, because we thought this book was a guide and a bridge between the positive and the negative.
And to this point, life never comes at you in one place. I mean, since we're using this metaphor of the ocean here, let us remember that there are 2 high tides and 2 low tides every day. So there are twice every day that you might feel very elevated and you might feel very down. But the one thing you could be assured of is that this too shall pass. So we wanted to speak to both the positive and the negative, and sometimes, are there any of us who haven't lived long enough to understand that sometimes even bad luck keeps you from worse luck?
So we chose 18, and the first chapter is anxious and calm, despair and hope, doubt and faith, and ending with the very first word that someone put up on the screen, privilege and gratitude. It's amazing how there's this interconnectivity of souls. That privilege and gratitude was the last chapter in the book.
I mean, just to speak to this for a second, there is nobody who comes to faith who has not known doubt. There's nobody who has ever found their way who has not felt lost. There's no one who's ever in the light who has not been in the dark. Let us not forget that if we take, in a major religion, if we take Jesus on the cross as the man of faith, that he asked on the cross, God, why have you forsaken me? So if Jesus has the room to have doubt and come to faith, who are we to think that we cannot have doubt in our life and come to faith? So we took both of these elements in the chapters we are dealing with.
So we were very excited when we first saw the book. So this picture of Lara and I, this is when we opened the book for the first time. We had the only copy of the book in the world at the time. It was like a pre-press issue from the printer. You Shaka. We were very, very stoked, and my wife Carla took that in our garden. And this concept of being stoked has, I think, imbued all the events that we've done. Our very first event was at Ticolone Bookshop, our local bookshop in Montecito. I did an event 2 days ago at a shop called Pages in Manhattan Beach. And we've been doing these little events and connecting with people and connecting them to the book and connecting them to hope and connecting them to the new path, connecting them to a new future. So I went into Ticolone today and I clipped this a little bit. So, hey Mary,
Hi,
it's Shaun.
Shaun.
and I just wanted to ask you, because this is where we launched Surfer on the Sage, how the book's been doing.
Oh, it's fantastic. We've sold over 150 copies. We keep it right here. People come in and ask for it.
And what have people been saying about the book?
Well, they really love it, and they even want to share it with their family. So they come in and get another copy or two.
So for us, that's the ultimate, wanting to share with their families. Our publishers, familiars.
Let's just say this, because for me to reach out to my mother and father these days is a very long distance call. But my mother always reminded me to speak the truth. The Surfer on the Stage on Amazon was #1 on hot bestsellers on Amazon and #2 on the Audible of Amazon. And today I got an email from Amazon telling me that our book was, telling me if I wanted to buy my book, that it was a hot bestseller. There was a guy who was given a medal at his church for being the most humble. The next week, he wore the medal to church and they took it away from him. With all humility, because we know that too humble is half proud, but in all humility, Shaun and I are very excited because we like where we live, we like our lives. We're most touched that this book is touching a lot of lives.
You know, we're very stoked. When we first started this, hey Shaun, the main thing is we've got to have a lot of fun with this. And you can see that's what we've been doing. We've been having so much fun reaching out to people and just connecting with people around this, around these words. Because people have been disconnected for so long, and it's wonderful actually to be in a room with real people and not be on a Zoom call. So we've been getting super cool press from all the local media have really supported it. It's been wonderful to be on the front page of the local papers. And it's been a very, very special time. So I wanted to segue into something that I've been doing, and I know I was going to have some wonderful comments on it, on the mission that I've been doing to empower positivity amongst young people. So it started off with my environmental focus with a group called Surfer Foundation. I wrote these 5 words in 1984, which became the mission for the organization, Do a Good Turn. Today, and Surfer Foundation is one of the most powerful environmental organizations in the world. And a number of years ago, the same guy that started the organization said your local home breaker of Rincon is facing a severe environmental challenge, and I need some help. All the homeowners are connected up to septic tanks, and when it rains, the septic's overflow. We need some help in solving this problem. I'm going to bring a group of kids to the beach and then bring all the local officials and the state officials and the government officials, and hopefully we can empower the kids to be environmentally conscious and then ultimately we can resolve this environmental problem. So he said, Shaun, you've got to give something to the kids. And what I did next changed my life. I'll absolutely unequivocally state, and I talk about it in the little book in one of the chapters about how this little process changed my life. What I did is, I went home that night and gave me a $100 budget to empower 100 kids, and I wrote this out, 12 lines, every line beginning with I will. I called it Surface Code, and I printed out a little plastic card, and I printed 100 cards, cost me $100. I gave them to the kids that came down to the beach about a week later. So the kids loved these cards. The media loved the cards. And ultimately, we solved the environmental problem. But the cards had a life of their own. My wife, Cara, and I had an apparel company called Solitude. We started putting the little cards in the pockets of our clothing. And hundreds of thousands of these cards were being distributed out into the culture. And people started asking me to come around and speak at different events. Out of it came a book called Surface Code. And then I was in the water surfing at Rincon, and the guy popped up to me and said, Shaun, I'm a headmaster at Anacapa School. And for all of you that might not know, it's most probably the smallest school in Santa Barbara, has 80 students in high school. And he said, come and speak to my students about a code. And I came to the students, and when I was chatting to them, I said, Surface Code's my code, why don't you write your own code? So these kids wrote their code, sent them back to me, with the very first line of code that I ever read was, I will be myself. Incredibly empowering words from a young girl who was 13 at the time, and all these other wonderful words. I will do what I say I will do. I will not compromise on my morals to fit in with others. And both of us understand the power of words, no?
I just this thought, for a number of years I was the national laureate for some very large companies dealing with addiction across the country. And I'm not in recovery, but addiction is people not, addiction manifests something you're not dealing with in your life. And I've spent a lifetime writing about where people get caught and how they get caught and how to get uncaught. And I was speaking down at Palm Springs to an addiction group that dealt with young women. And this young girl came up to me after the talk and she said, I was so moved by what you said. I'm going to have it tattooed on my arm. I said, don't be so moved. Do me a favor. I don't want you to be that moved, okay? I do think of, when I think of words, I think of, in Zen and Taoism, the teaching is that those who know do not say, and those who say do not know. Jacob, in my book, Jacob the Baker says, it's the silence between the notes that makes the music. And for our book and with our spirit, I'm most aligned with the author and philosopher Henry James, who at the late 19th and early 20th century, and then later, if you follow Henry James, or if you follow Mr. Rogers, who later took from Henry James, that the three most important things in life, let's keep it simple, let's keep it simple, let's keep it simple. The three most important things in life are, number one, be kind. Number two, be kind. Number three, be kind. When they asked the Dalai Lama what his religion is, he said, I'm a Buddhist, but my religion is kindness. In my book, Jacob the Baker says, people of all faiths are of one faith if their religion is kindness. Jesus said, I am love. Abu Bakr, the first Islam Caliph, said, if you want the blessings of Allah, be kind. And in the 1st century BC, the transactional golden rule is treat others as you want to be treated, with this proviso. Treat others as you want to be treated, unless you are prepared to treat yourself with disrespect. Do not treat others with the same disrespect you might treat yourself. Be kind, be kind, be kind.
That's a lot better than location. So out of these amazing statements of commitment, these codes from a young kid, came my next book called The Code. And I would tour around the country, going to different schools, and instead of just writing their codes, kids would create these amazing graphics and put them up on the wall of their lecture halls. And I saw that these words were not only empowering the kid, but they were empowering their peers, their friends, the faculty, the teachers. And kids across the world, across South Africa, the United States, were creating these graphics and posters, sometimes even products. I will be different. I will focus on my future. I'll be a positive vibe. I love this design, particularly in the context of today's world. I will not let negativity bring me down. So I became so fascinated with this concept of words having great power for positive and negative that I actually went back to grad school I like to say I was the oldest dude in grad school studying a Master of Science in Leadership, older than the oldest lecturers, and I came across some really interesting studies on this concept called emotional contagion, which is a way that our emotions can create a virus of contagion amongst other people. Through positive emotions, we can impact people positively. Through negative emotions, we can impact others negatively. And I came across this amazing study by Facebook and the National Academy of Sciences. It's one of the biggest social studies in the history of the world, and no one knew about it, specifically because the people were being observed without their knowledge. And they found there was massive experimental evidence of massive scale emotional contagion through social networks. So all of us, no matter what platform we use, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, we have this incredible power to drop a stone, start a ripple of a wave.
Just
super simple.
the smallest stone dropped in the widest sea will send radiating circles onto shores you will never know. They did the study, and they found that all the people on the verge of suicide, if they received one call from one person telling them you matter, it made a difference. Kindness is a contagion. That's the infection that we need between us now. Let us pass the contagion of, don't be my microphone like so crazy if I was pointing my finger. I hope you, this is as much as my heart knows what my mind only thinks it knows, and I'm no longer young enough to think I know everything, but I know this. The kindness is a contagion. And for Shaun and myself, that's one of the things we're hoping that when you leave here this evening, in the face of the passport of anxiety that is the common passport among so many, be contagious with kindness and caring, and watch what happens.
So, I thought, is it possible to create this contagion, this positive wave right across the country by getting kids to inspire each other with words of purpose, with powerful words of purpose, by getting kids to write their codes built around this concept of I will equals power. I've never seen people that actually feel significant, that feel they are important. So I hooked up with a big publishing company and a big investment company, and I went to 35 schools, 60,000 students. I figured if each student's got about 200 people in his network, we'll hit about 1 million kids. We printed out hundreds of thousands of these badges. And I embarked on my tour in one of the poorest schools in the country, a place called Contention in Johannesburg, South Africa. And while in South Africa it's no longer a country of segregation and apartheid, the system of apartness, today the country still has this economic stratification. The very poor schools are populated by black kids. And on my first school, a woman phoned me up the day before. She said, Shaun, I want to cover your process of empowerment. I'm from China Global Television, the biggest TV station in the world, and I want to come and cover it. And I said, I'm really nervous. Can you come a little bit later in the tour? Because these kids might see me as part of the problem. They might see me as a vestige of apartheid, an old white dude. She said, Shaun, I'm a journalist, I'm coming tomorrow, and this is what she discovered.
Surfer Shaun Tomson is one of South Africa's finest sporting heroes. Famous for his style of riding the tube section of the wave, Thompson won the International Professional Surfers World Championship in 1977. Considered one of the 10 greatest surfers of all time, he now inspires others to follow his paddle. In this underprivileged school in Katlehong on the east side of Johannesburg, Thompson shares with youngsters a simple strategy for confronting everyday challenges and making positive, life-changing decisions.
It's so wonderful to be inspiring some young kid in Johannesburg or Durban or Los Angeles, anywhere, just to know that You drop that little pebble in the water, and what's it done? It's created a wave. And that wave is going to go and touch lives.
In 12 personal stories, Shaun shares the power of I will, a code that carries him through life.
While yes, this little code that I wrote, 12 lines that I wrote so many years ago, was about surfing, it's like every line is a metaphor and can be interpreted in so many different ways. It's about how you can be a good person, how you can be a good human being, how you can make a difference in the world, how you can impact others. So I've been on this journey for 10 years now, since I lost my beautiful son. And surfing was this constant. Surfing helped get me back on the path to healing again.
Many of these teenagers have barely seen a beach, but the code has resonated among them.
I will achieve my goals. I will be better. I will dream big, and I will be who I want to be.
I will arise and shine, and I will face my fears, and I will take charge of my life.
Although all these youngsters were born after apartheid, many of them are still trapped by poverty. But the code is giving them courage to change their lives.
In this country are deprived right of opportunities, and I will break that cycle of being deprived of opportunities, and I will create opportunities for myself.
This book will give me the courage that I don't have. I think it will give me that power to do what I want to do and to believe in myself.
Shaun Tomson's The Code is about many things: faith, courage, creativity, determination. But above all, it's about promises we make to ourselves, about the future, and to turn hope into action. Julie Shara, CGTN, Katlehong, South Africa.
Thank you. How about those kids?
Well, first of all, if you look at this, if you had a question about why I wanted to do something with this man, and I'm a better man for doing something with him. But I want to suggest this as a takeaway understanding. When you look at what was the transformation in these kids, let us bring it home that the ability to be other-loving requires you to be self-loving. The ability to be other-caring requires you to be self-caring. The ability to be other-honest requires you to be self-honest. So all of this that we're talking about is completely transformative to whatever your social, gender, racial, bank account may be. It brings it home. And the work that you don't do on these issues is going to be your going away gift to your children. Do not kiss your children so they will kiss you back, but so they will kiss their children and their children's children. In everything in life, there is a transactional relationship. I give you money, I get a steak, I get some gas, I get to do this. Except there is a this for that in every circumstance, except for teaching and parenting. With teaching and parenting, what you get is the opportunity to give. Give yourself love, caring, honesty, and then you will be amazed at what you can give others.
So on that note of giving and caring and kindness, on this tour, I'm at a school here with a principal, 1,600 students, one class. His name's Ernest Bongani Nkosi. I met him when he was 10 years old. His mom worked for my mom, and he was working in the garden to make some extra pocket money. Great young kid. He said, "Shaun, my mom's got no money, I need to go to school." I said, "I'll pay your way through school." I was a pro surfer making good money. He went through school, graduated, did well. "Shaun, I want to go to university." And in those days, in segregated South Africa, not many black kids going to university. So I said, "Sure, I'll pay your way through university." And he did really good at university. And then Carla and I, my wife, left South Africa for the United States. And when I went back for this tour, As I arrived, I get a call. Hey, Shaun, it's Ernest Bongani and Corsi. Do you remember me? I said, of course I remember you. He said, I want to tell you about my life. I've got 2 university degrees, 2 teaching credentials. I'm a principal of 1,600 students, and you are coming to speak at my school. And it was one of the greatest moments of my life to stand there. He introduced me, and it was like hearing a young Obama, a young Martin Luther King, this eloquent, articulate guy that I'd just given him something so small, and he turned it into this incredible bounty, and I felt like the greatest human being on the planet to know that I played such a small part in his development. It was a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And this notion of when you give, who's the one that gets the most? It's not the recipient, but it's the donor. And it was just a wonderful moment for me, and I just thought I'd share that.
If of all the things you can make in life, why not make a difference?
I love that. I love that, man. So what we're going to do is we'll tell one more story, and then I want Noah to read the last page of our book. The last part of the book deals with perspective. So we'll give a little story. I wanted to tell a little story about perspective, and then we'll open it up to some questions from everyone. So just to get to the section here on perspective. Noah doesn't know what's coming here, so this is going to be pretty cool, I hope. So our book's a perspective. It's not a prescription. We're not out there telling you which wave to take, which road to choose. It's when Noah gave the subtitle to the book, the word guide, it's a beautiful word. You think of someone carrying a light. It's a lovely word. So I went back to South Africa a few years back, and on the day I arrived, a guy used to sponsor, phoned me up. He said, "Hey, Shaun, sponsor professional surfer, not the other way we might think." He said, "Shaun, the surf's going to be incredible. I want to take you to a break you've never ever surfed before." He said, "It's going to be fantastic." So I grew up in Durban, South Africa. My mom had been evacuated from the island of Malta and endured 3,600 air raids, the most heavily bombed place in the history of the world. My father grew up on the beach, was a South African swimming champion at 13 years old, and his dream was the Olympics. The Second World War intervened, he volunteered, and then he came back and he was out in the surf on a little wooden surfboard, waiting for the 1948 Olympics to roll around. This is what happened to my dad. I was lifted clear from the water. The Zambezi shark came up underneath him and nearly bit his arm off in one bite, savaged his arm. He was never able to compete again, but never lost this fundamental love that he had for the ocean. But for me, growing up as a young surfer, I knew that shark attacks were always a possibility, because if it happened to my dad, it could happen to me. So now my friend has told me he's going to take me to a break you've never surfed before. I knew it wouldn't have shark nets, because when I grew up, we only used to surf inside netted areas that had shark nets to protect us from the Zambezi sharks. So we walked down the beach early in the morning, and there's no one on the beach, and these incredible waves are tubing down towards us. Surfers call it a tube, this incredible tunnel of water. And I'm looking up at these waves, and I'm thinking about Zambezis, and I just strip off my clothes, put on my wetsuit, and the two of us run out the beach, and we jump in the water. We start catching these incredible waves together. It's a shot of my dad there. And we started riding inside these tubes.
Life has slowed down. I felt that I could curve that wall to my will. I really felt that. It's a magical, magical moment. It's an incredible moment.
My God, he changed the way we rode tubes off the wall. Like all of us at the time, we were thinking about what we could do to leave our mark. And Shaun, had a huge influence of the evolvement of modern-day tube riding.
He's doing things on single fins in the 70s that, a lot of guys aren't doing on their thrusters now. The barrel shots, there's some slow motion shots of him riding the foam ball. Just unbelievable, modern, way ahead of its time barrel riding.
So my friend and I are sharing these like amazing waves together, and it feels like I'm 18 years old again, like I've been in a time machine, experiencing this like surreal moment with my friend, sharing these incredible waves. And I paddled up to my mate and I said to him, like, what's the name of the break? Because surfers have very descriptive names for the waves they ride. He said, mate, we call it One Eye. I said, why'd you call it One Eye? He said, we call it One Eye because when you ride inside that tube, it looks like the human eye. And I went, wow, what a cool name for this incredible tubular wave. So I catch a wave, it's my last wave in, and I'm flying across the wall. I've ridden for about 200 yards, and I kick out of the wave and I fly into the air. There's this moment of weightlessness on your board. Whoosh. You fly through the air, and then you land in the water again, and it's like the ocean receives you. But as I land, the water is dark, deep. And I just get this feeling that there is something there. The hairs on the back of my neck rise up, the hairs on my arms rise up, and I go, whoa, I've got company here. And I'm 200 yards away from the only other guy in the water, and this sense of dread and fear just comes over me, and it just makes me completely immobile. I'm like a sphinx lying on my board. And my board's teeny, I'm 6'1", my board's 6'1", 2.5 inches wide, and I'm half submerged in the water. And I see from the right hand a dark shape about 6 feet coming towards me, and on about the other side I see another shape. 2 dark shapes heading straight towards me, and I think, God, I'm going to be consumed in hysteria. And right then there's this explosion, and these 2 huge dolphins jump out the water. And land next to me, and I go, thank you, God, I'm saved. So immediately I swing my board around and I catch the next wave, and I'm walking up the beach shaking, dripping wet with my board under the arm, and I walk past this fisherman who's standing there with a big rod and reel. And as I walk past him, he says to me, you haven't been surfing out there, have you? And I'm going, of course I have. What does it look like? He said, do you know what we call this wave? I said, yeah, you call it One Eye. He said, do you know why we call it One Eye? I said, yeah, you call it One Eye because when you're inside that tube, it looks like a human eye. He says, no, mate, we call it One Eye because there's a 12-foot Zambezi shark that lives out there in the lineup, and when it rolls over on its side to bite, all you can see is one eye. So I tell you that funny story because it's a story of perspective, how 2 people can see the same reality in completely different ways. So I write about it in the last chapter of the book, and Noah writes a very, very beautiful, eloquent, articulate response.
Boy, I hope I don't let down on being eloquent in this perspective. I would like to share that with you, but perspective for me, there's a story that's in the last chapter in my book, Jacob the Baker, that I'd like to share with you, and it goes like this. We're all on a journey in this lifetime, often in the unknown in our life. And at the end of the day, when we bend to build a fire to give us light and warmth and dig our fingers at the soil, we find the ashes of another fire. And these ashes do not give us light or warmth or will not start our fire. But with perspective, they remind us that somebody else has been in the night, that somebody else has been in their unknown, and somebody else has bent to build a fire, and somebody else has carried on. And that can be enough sometimes. And that can be enough sometimes. Well, we all like to have a summation, a bottom line, a clear conclusion that we can count on or look to having. A chapter entitled A Final Perspective is a contradiction in terms. Why? Well, because there is no finality. Finality is only a rumor born of perspective. When the sun goes down, it appears to go over the edge of things, but ask Columbus. The world is round, and over the edge is only around the curve. Any line extended far enough into space will curve back on itself. There is, my friends, there is no finality, only continuance. No wave is final. Every wave that has ever been is again a wave in some form, in some sea of events, and you too. When Shaun and I decided to do this book, that he was the surfer was too obvious. Then Shaun said, "Noah, you are the sage." So cast in this role by a friend's observation, what's the sage's final word? It's this: excuse what I have written here when I have been a fool. I'm no longer young enough to know everything. What I know can fill a book. What I don't know can fill a library. Thank you for your company this evening and in our guide. I hope you have found our words to be a source of strength. God knows we all need to be strong and a source of strength to others. Visualize now me touching my heart and saying to you, peace and blessings, the surfer and the sage.
So what we thought we'd do, you can see that's a double shaka from both of us. We thought we'd open it up to some questions. If any of you have any questions you might have for Noah or for me, just throw them out there.
And my response to this is, once you ask the question, Shaun and I, myself in particular, will pretend like I'm answering your question, but I tend to speak about whatever I want to talk about because of your question, and I'll keep looking at you like I'm responding to your question, but be understanding, because my children have grown up understanding that about their father.
Any questions out there? So how did we meet, and how can you create that same kind of connectivity with your grandkids? Okay.
Well, a number of years back, there was a TED conference in town, and I was asked to give a keynote address, but my wife and I spend time each year in Italy, and so I recorded I did a video of my keynote address that I was not here to play, and my daughter, both my son and daughter live in Santa Barbara, and my daughter introduced it, and she called me that night and said, "Dad," she said, "it went well, but there was this other guy at the TED conference that gave a talk named Shaun Tomson, and I think you and he would really like to connect." So to answer your question in a circumlocucious manner, Scripture tells us that the children shall lead them. And so Shaun and I, again, circumlocutiously, we were drawn into this conversation because my daughter reminded me that Shaun and I should meet, and Shaun wrote me a note while I was in Europe, and we promised to get together when I got back, and it was at this lunch we got together that we decided to write the book. You know, I just want to say about what you say to your children, your grandchildren, about meetings in life. I have two takes on it. One is Einstein, always a fairly good, you're going to a safe place if you quote Einstein. He said that a coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. And Jacob the baker in my book says that coincidence is God's cloak of humility. When I was younger, there were a number of things that I would strike up to coincidence, and as time has passed, I find myself saying, So I would suggest, if you were to remind your grandchildren of anything, is to remind them what we would like to remind ourselves. to pay attention, and that a miracle is often our willingness to witness one.
And also, I think, you know, I'm a student of management theory. I've read all the great management writers, Peter Drucker, etc. And when you read a lot of management books today on leadership and management, it's like, you're so busy, you've got to learn to say no. I think that's the biggest lot of BS I've ever heard. Say yes. When this dude said to me, let's write a book together, what would have happened if I just said no? None of you would have been here tonight. But throughout my life, good things have come when I've said yes.
I want to tell you, there is somebody here tonight who can give testimony to this. It's a friend who was having a drink with my wife and myself late one afternoon, and she asked me, have you ever written a book with someone else? And I said, well, I did a book with my daughter many years ago, but this book with Shaun was the first book that really I had done with someone else. And my wife stopped and looked at me and said, Noah, you forgot the book you did with the Dalai Lama and Mikhail Gorbachev. and the friend who was here this evening looked at me and said, who are you? So I want to say that I don't know what would have happened if Shaun said no, but I want to tell you, I always think of the last lines of James Joyce's Ulysses, where all of the romance in life, both intellectually and viscerally is, and it goes like this, and I said yes, yes, and I drew him down, yes, yes, and I said yes, yes, and I said yes, right? And I think of Dylan Thomas, who said, do not go quietly into that night, rage, rage against the dying of the light. And so I say to you in your lifetime, say yes, say yes, say yes. There's enough time in this life for life to say no.
You can see we're on the same wavelength. We're riding that same wave, baby. So thanks to everyone. It's been a wonderful experience. I'd obviously like to thank Greg Gorge and the whole team at the Maritime Museum. I'd also like to send out a big love to my beautiful wife Carla and my beautiful son Luke. Thank you for coming, Luke, because I know he's 12 and he's got a hell of a busy schedule. So thank you so much for having us, but it's been such a wonderful pleasure for us, and thanks to all of you for coming. I know everyone leads very busy lives, and it's wonderful to see so many people here. We're very, very stoked. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaun. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, everybody. Stay calm. We hope to see you back at the Maritime Museum soon.